Welcome back to the study prep, guys. Csec, everyone. It is nice to be back with you. For today's video, we'll be working 2025 January paper 2 for English B. Right, we're working that for English. Let me just put ENG B English B. So within the 2025 January paper 2, for section 1, the stories included Anansi by Alistair Campbell, Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare. For the poems, they included The Stone's Throw and Dreaming Black Boy. Section 3 included For the Life of Letitia and Animal Farm. And the suggested word limit for each of these stories, each of these sections, is 40 minutes. So it's nice to be back with you guys. Welcome to the Study Prep Guys channel again. It's nice to be with you back on this video. So let's look at the actual document. This is the English B. This is section A, which is inclusive of drama. You could either choose 12th Night by William Shakespeare, but I decided to choose Anansi. So it says here, what is exciting about this play, and this is Anansi by Alistair Campbell. What is exciting about this play is the use of poetry and song to present significant events. Write an essay in which you describe two incidents in which a poem or song is used. For one of the incidents described, you must discuss how the poem or song is used in the presentation of that significant event. Finally, you must examine how the playwright uses one dramatic technique to present significant events. So let's look at section A. This is fourth section, which is by Anansi by Alistair Campbell. And this is on, I chose the second question, which is question 2. I just put that there. The story Anansi, written by Alistair Campbell, is a play that is written off of the Caribbean folklore that serves as a symbol for the hopes of African natives. In the act that involves the characters Tiger, Ratbat, and others, the song Tiger Me Young, Tiger Fat is used as a means of describing the significant dramatic or situational irony in the play, as described as the introspective Ratbat is framed for a crime that he did not commit. In this case, he is placed in a position of hypocrisy and shame since Anansi, a trickster in his own right, created a situation where he would come out triumphant and his essential ambitions to acquire tiger fat to eat. From the information surveyed, it is quite evident that while strength is important, it is vital to know that intellectual inquisition also be taken into account as a result, lamenting the intellectual superiority of Anansi in the play. This is shown numerous times in the play. For instance, in the case of Anansi and Snake, where at the time Snake was strict due to his prideful ways. And in that situation, if you have read the play, we figured out that in that case, the reason why Snake lost in that sequence of events was because of his prideful ways. This portion of the passage is symbolism of intellectual strength compared to physical strength. This is further reinforced in the lines on board. Let me just take out this on board when the mother says that while they can tie us, they can never tie our minds or hearts in some instances, reinforcing the struggle of the girl. As a direct result of this, the girl is encouraged as a means of this and develops a personal sense of identity and self. For the evidence of the trickster ways is in the song Animals of the Jungle that further portrays the array and differences of animals prescribed in the initial play. In addition, while there may be significant complications as it relates to the life we live in, it is also important that we learn from the story and try to draw courage regardless of our existential problems that may arise and find courage in the Anansi stories. So that's in relation to section I. Just change this thing. And it's supposed to be a comma due to yes, and find courage in the Anansi stories. So that's about it for that. That's in relation to the fourth section of the section A. We did describe two events with the instances of Anansi tricking snake. We did describe actually three. Anansi tricking snake. The second inference was within the with the instance with Ratbat in the song Tiger Fat Me Tiger Fat. And then we have the third inference. Let me just go back right here. Um, we actually put in Shri, but we'll just think at that right now. So that is for section A. That's for section A, guys. Moving on, let's go on to the second section, which is section B, which mainly deals with poetry, which is The Stone's Throw and Dreaming Black Boy are poems which focus on physical and emotional abuse. Write an essay in which you focus on abuse. For each poem, describe the nature of the abuse experience. For one of the poems, you must also discuss the impact of abuse on one person. Finally, for each poem, you must examine one device each poet uses to portray abuse. So let's look into section B. Let's read. In the two poems, Dreaming Black Boy and Stone's Throw both deal with human error of abuse and substantive societal faculties in their own right. To begin, the poem Dreaming Black Boy is mainly focused on the psychological and emotional abuse that one cannot receive due to their skin color. Due to societal expectations, there were no way for someone to be accepted, as bias was placed in to put an end to that idea. In repetition or the figurative repetition of the words I wish, it is crystal clear to the reader that discrimination is something that hindered the then environment. For the proclamations were made as the poem was written in first person to demonstrate the psychological faculties someone has to go through in order to live in a biased society in post colonial times, where slavery was prevalent and as a result shunned most of the would be proactive portions of society. Furthermore, in the poem Stone's Throw, which is in direct reference to the unclean women mentioned in the Holy Bible, illustrated by the hypocrisy of human ways, the poem alludes to the story of Mary Magdalene in the Bible, which illustrates in John 8, 3 to 11, or chapter 8, 3 to 11, verse 3 to 11. As in the passage followed in Scripture, the connotation of he without sin cast the first stone is an important connotation in the Christian faith, which acts as a symbol or symbolism to illustrate that while we ourselves try to judge, it proves to us that we are no less guilty than the person being accused of. In the case of the passage, the persona, likely a male, defends the right of the woman in accusation, blatantly telling them that you cannot judge because you yourself have sinned. Even while being proven wrong, the accusers still refuse to change their minds, and they still hold it. And this is just aside from the passage. In the passage, if you read it, at the end of the passage, is still hold the actual stone in their hands, inquiring that they don't want to change their ways, which acts as a symbolism to show that while they are yet unwilling to change their ways. And this is in the passage that alludes to biblical illusion. You just put that right there because I really want to put that in biblical illusion as a figurative device. Yes, suggesting right there. Which alludes to biblical illusion as a figurative device. While both of these poems allude to the faculty of human nature, it is important to take to heart the lessons obtained from both of these poems as a result and apply them in the process of our lives. So that is the essay for that. It was very brief. I tried to make these essays as brief as possible, but we did choose the second option in this case. We did choose the second option. So that's it for right here, section B. So let's take a little bit of a dive. So to begin, the poem "Dreaming Black Boy" is mainly focused. I said in the opening statement, it's focused on psychological and emotional abuse in the poem "The Dreaming Black Boy." Right. So I alluded to that in the force connotation. So how did it affect him? I said it affected him psychologically, and due to societal expectation, there were no way for someone to be accepted. I basically said that there was no way for this persona, likely a male, in the passage to be accepted, right? So I highlighted to that. So we did actually answer what we wanted. It says the nature of abuse experience. I said that it was psychological, it was emotional. For one of the poems, you must also discuss the impact of abuse on the poorest, and I said it affected them emotionally, psychologically. Finally, for the poem, you must examine one device poet uses to portray abuse. I said that they utilize repetition in the words I wish. And you could see this through the passage. He said, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have raised my hand in class. And that alludes to the teacher. And he could not do that because of post colonial slavery, because that was prevalent in those times. Um, Results shun most of the would-be proactive portions of society, and I did really allude to that. So I, in this passage, with this story here, which is relation to the stone's true, is in relation to Mary Magdalene in the Bible, which alludes to John 18, or John 8 3 to 11, with Mary Magdalene in the Bible. I did said that the poem alluded to biblical allusion as a figurative device. So we did state that. Um, I did say of the opposing party, how did it affect them? They refuse to change their minds. I alluded to that in that segment right there. They still refuse it. They still refuse to change their minds, regardless of what was said to them, regardless of the wisdom even illustrated in scripture. They refuse to change their minds. So this is an important line that should be remembered in the passage. He that is without sin casteth the first stone. Let me just find that quick. He that is without sin casteth the first stone. This is an important biblical connotation that is utilized in almost every scriptural faculties in today's modern society due to its relevance on everyone's day-to-day lives. And then I close out the story by saying that we should apply it to our lives. We did fulfill all the requirements. If you look at the information above, we did fulfill all the requirements. So that's it for section B. Yes, that's it for section B. Let's move on. Now let's go on to our final section. We only need to answer section A, B, and C. We only need to answer three questions. We don't need to answer more than that. And for this section, section C, I choose Animal Farm by George Orwell, which is in direct relation to the Russian Revolution that occurred in the early 1900s to 1800s, with Napoleon coming into power and showing corruption of authority and all these other figurative things. So it says within the betrayal of values is a recurring theme in Animal Farm. Write an essay in which you describe two incidents where values are betrayed. For one of the incidents in four that are described, you must also discuss the effect of that betrayal on others. Finally, you must examine one technique that the writer uses to explore the theme of betrayal. So for this section, I did place the initial thing as the corruption and influence of power and the themes of Animal Farm by George Orwell. So as the pigs consolidated their power, they began to adopt behaviors and characteristics of the very human beings they initially rebel against, illustrating the idea of that absolute power and desire for control can lead even the most well-intentioned individuals to become tyrannical. This phenomenon is evident in the character of Napoleon, who is gradually becoming increasingly ruthless and paranoid, with using propaganda and manipulation to maintain his grip on power and quell opposition, thereby rendering the original ideas of the revolution all but obsolete. This serves as a stark warning about the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of accountability in leadership, as well as the need for a robust system of checks and balances to prevent the concentration of power in the hands of a single individual or group. Furthermore, the novel highlights the importance of institutional safeguards and rule of law in preventing the erosion of democratic principles. Protecting the rights and freedoms of individuals who are ultimately the backbone of a functioning democracy. Orwell's portrait of a dystopian society where the pig's lust for power and control ultimately leads to the exploitation of other animals serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of totalitarianism or authoritarianism and the loss of individual freedoms and the erosion of trust in those who hold power. This is practically relevant in today's world where we continue to grapple on the complexities of power dynamics, corruption, and erosion of trust in institutions that are supposed to protect and serve the public interests. The novel's exploration of the corruption or the corrupting influence of power on individuals and societies is a theme that resonates deeply with readers. as its relevance extends beyond the confines of the literary world, speaking to fundamental concerns about the human condition and the importance of accountability, and the need for transparency and oversight in preventing the abuse of power. The novel's portrayal of the pigs illustrates how the corrupt influence of power can lead to a decline in moral principles and a sense of entitlement. This ultimately undermines the very ideals that initially drove the revolution. Orwell's cautionary tale serves as a reminder that the concentration of power, regardless in the hands of individuals or groups, can have far reaching and devastating consequences for society as a whole, highlighting the importance of ongoing vigilance and critical examination of those in positions of power to prevent the erosion of democratic value and rise of authoritarian or authoritarianism. By exploring the ways in which power can be abused and manipulated, Orwell's novel serves to warn about the dangers of unchecked authority and the need for well-informed and engaged citizenry. The big skill manipulation of language, and let me just highlight that manipulation of language allows them to shape public opinion, distort reality, and maintain control over other animals in the farm, ultimately leading to a shocking revelation that the pigs have indistinguishable from the humans that they initially rebel against. So I believe that from that we could actually get all the information that we necessarily need, because I did be a bit I was a bit redundant in this. Let's continue reading and then we'll take a close, and then I'll give you the dramatic technique that Orwell utilized, allowing them to shape public opinion, distort reality, and maintain control over the other animals in the farm, ultimately leading to a shocking revelation that the pigs have indistinguishable from the humans that they initially rebelled against, exemplifying the cyclical nature of power struggles and the tendency for new leaders to adopt the very same behaviors and tactics that they initially condemned. This cyclical nature of power struggles is a stark reminder of the need for eternal vigilance and a critical examination of those in positions of power, lest the gains of the revolution be lost and the oppressed become the new oppressors, as Animal Farm's tragic tale so eloquently demonstrates. Will cautionary tales serve as a powerful reminder of the dangers of authoritarianism and the insidious ways in which it can creep into even the most well-intentioned of societies. Furthermore, Orwell's depiction of the pigs' gradual corruption and the animals' failure to recognize and challenge their leaderships highlight the need for transparency. Let me just highlight these words: transparency, accountability, and a free flow of information, preventing the concentration of power in the erosion of democratic values. In a society where information is tightly controlled and dissent is suppressed, with little remains of the revolution, ideals is often distorted and manipulated to serve the interests of those in power. This can lead to a culture of misinformation where the masses are fed propaganda and lies and the truth is distorted beyond recognition. And the very fabric of reality becomes wiped and twisted to serve the purposes of the ruling elite. Um, just thinking the final lines, Orwell, I'm just putting that, uses the figurative device of satire to further his end. And before we close, satire is basically a means of, in case of Animal Farm, we have animals. And animals, these animals is in direct portrayal of the Russian Revolution in the 1900s, where Napoleon and the power struggle in Russia. So he's utilizing satire and basically a funny way to illustrate to the masses that this situation here is very funny, it's very laughable to say, and satire is used to illustrate that. So, anyways, guys, that is everything for the CSEC POB for January 2025. So, guys, see you guys on the next video. Subscribe.
Watch my 9mm go bang. Why not a dang? Why not a dang? Watch my 9mm go bang. Why not a dang? Why not a dang? Player haters, masturbators, bitches all up in my shit. Living scared, you know you did. Walking around with a cripple leg, that bitch boy tried to take my shit. Fucking with the wrist on kick. MAGNO